Reading is a big thing here in the county. Lots of kids dressing up today for World Book Day. And I'm kind of wondering, you were a lecturer for many, many years. How useful were books to try and get your students and stuff engaged in the subject matter? They're a little bit older at University of Kent, but obviously it is a big way to kind of get people involved in education and understanding the world around them.
Absolutely, and this would happen a lot because I would teach on film, but often I'd be teaching about the sources behind those films. In other words, a lot of the films, and we see many of them spread out on the table here, wouldn't have been made if it wasn't for, Stephen King. I mean, there's a Stephen King adaptation in the cinema at the moment, which is The Monkey, based on one of his short films by Osgood Perkins. But he wrote that short, and the film was made as a result of that. So I think sometimes the exciting part is seeing almost like not just the film in isolation, as if it appeared in a vacuum, it dropped out of the sky. It happened. Bridget Jones is a classic example. It was serialised. I think it was in The Independent for many years, and then Helen Fielding made it into a novel, and then of course the films had life. People may not always realise that there is a source material behind them.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious from your perspective, as a film lover and a book lover, there's this big fear, right, that children, they'll just watch the film adaptation, the TV show, they won't necessarily engage with the great selection, the original text, and all the complexity within that. Do you kind of worry that films kind of take away from these books, or can actually enhance them?
I think it works both ways, because I think in the same way, I always encourage my students to read film reviews. And I'm somebody, I may be unusual, I'd be interested to see what our audience think, because I tend to read reviews before I see the film as well, because it's not just, what happens at the end of the film, or don't give away the plot. Sometimes I want to know the context. Nothing appears randomly, and some of the books that we have here have been significantly modified in their journey to the big screen. I read, while I was at Sundance, I was in a queue for many hours, and I read Sleeping with the Enemy, and a single white female as well. And I was surprised that they'd taken some of the characters out, conflated others. There were some big twists. And it made me see the film, which I then subsequently watched, in a whole new light. So I think it's very important to read and watch and see them as a sort of symbiosis.
So I'm wondering, big selection of books here, Chris. Which is your favourite here?
Oh, that is, okay, I'll be honest with you. I'm a bit of a sucker for those 90s psychological thrillers. So I see like Sleeping with the Enemy. Also, I mean, John Wayne's last film was The Shootist, and that by Brandon Stewart. So I read that. I mean, I loved Bridget Jones, I'm not going to deny. But to be honest, and particularly in the light of the death of Gene Hackman, he was in The Firm. I think he gave utter gravitas to that film. We were talking about that last week. So I'm not going to deny my guilty pleasure is reading a John Grisham thriller.